Picture this. You are standing maybe just inches from the kitchen line, and an opponent fires this neon green plastic ball directly at your chest at like 40 miles an hour.
Oh, yeah. Terrifying.
Right. And the absolute best thing you can do to win that point is to just stop moving entirely. Like, do absolutely nothing but hold your ground. We are Brent and April, and welcome to Pickleball Partner, the podcast.
It really does sound incredibly counterintuitive, doesn't it? I mean, our human instinct is either to, duck for cover or to just take a massive aggressive swing back to defend ourselves.
Yeah, fight or flight kicks in.
Exactly. But navigating those high-pressure, high-speed moments with a complete biomechanical efficiency, that is what separates the people who just play the game from the people who actually control the court.
And controlling the court is our entire mission for this deep dive today. I mean, if you're listening to this, you already know the basics.
Right, you know the rules.
Yeah, you know what the kitchen is. You definitely know what a dink is. But we are providing you with the ultimate shortcut to really exploit those mechanics and level up your game.
Oh, for sure.
We're going to decode the high-level unwritten rules of court geography, unravel the biomechanical mystery of the soft game, and, make sure your body actually stays intact while you do it.
Which is super important.
Totally. Okay, let's unpack this. Because before you can even initiate that physical chess match, you have to weaponize your starting position.
Right.
And that begins the literal millisecond your skin touches the paddle handle.
Yeah, the grip. It's the foundation of your entire shot arsenal. Yet so many players, they lock themselves into what we call the frying pan grip.
Oh man, the frying pan, like they're about to flip a pancake.
Yes, exactly like flipping a pancake. And the problem there is that you completely paralyze your wrist's natural range of motion.
Right, it just locks up.
Right. You are forcing your elbow and your shoulder to do all the heavy lifting, which, well, we will definitely touch on when we get to the injury prevention part.
Yeah, your shoulder will absolutely scream at you later.
Exactly. So what you actually want is the continental grip, or, some people call it the shake hands grip.
Shake hands, yeah.
Right. So when you look down at your hand, the index knuckle and the thumb, they should form this distinct V shape, and it rests right on the top bevel of the handle.
I always felt like holding it that way felt a bit like, I don't know, holding a hammer.
Yeah, it does feel like a hammer.
It seems slightly unnatural at first. But then you realize the strategic advantage, right? You never have to spin the paddle in your hand.
Yeah, ever. That is the beauty of it.
Because that single grip perfectly balances power and control. It lets you transition from a heavy forehand drive to a soft backhand volley in just a fraction of a second.
And that time-saving element is critical. I mean, pickleball is a game won and lost in absolute fractions of a second. So once you have that grip established, the strategy kind of shifts to the baseline for the serve. And honestly, the biggest paradigm shift for anyone coming over from tennis to pickleball is understanding that your serve is not a weapon of mass destruction.
No, not at all. It's just an entry ticket.
Exactly. The strategic imperative here is absolute consistency over raw power.
Because the risk-to-reward ratio just isn't there, right?
Yeah.
Like if you miss a high-risk power serve, you instantly forfeit your opportunity to dictate the point.
You're just giving it away.
Yeah. You just have to follow the geographic constraints, keep at least 1 foot firmly behind the baseline, stay within those imaginary sideline extensions, and obviously hit cross-court past the kitchen.
Right. But there is a really fascinating psychological element to the serve, too, specifically the 10-second rule.
Oh, I love this rule.
It's so weird. You have exactly 10 seconds to make contact after calling the score. And there's this completely bizarre quirk in the rule book that says you can literally drop the ball, take a massive swing, completely...
Airball it completely.
Yeah, airball it, and as long as you pick it up and hit it within that same 10-second window, it is not a fault.
Which is wild. It highlights the historically forgiving nature of the sport.
Yeah.
But from a strategic standpoint, that 10-second window, that should be your mental reset.
Absolutely. Elite players use that exact time to establish their rhythm. And part of that mental reset is calling the score.
Right. The 3 numbers.
Yeah, your score, opponent score, server number. But most players just, shout it out like lottery numbers.
Like it's just a chore.
Right. They don't think about the tactical implications of being server 1 versus server 2.
Oh, that's a brilliant point. How does your risk tolerance change based on that final number?
Oh, it changes everything about your shot selection. I mean, if you are server 1, your team has a safety net.
Because you still have your partner.
Exactly. You can afford to try a slightly more aggressive third shot drive or, go for a tighter angle on a dink. Because if you miss, the serve simply passes to your partner. You haven't lost the ball entirely.
Right, right.
But if you are server 2, your risk profile must immediately become highly conservative. A mistake there means a side out. It shifts the momentum entirely back to the opposing team.
So your sole job as server 2 is just to keep the ball in play. Force the opponent to make the error.
Precisely. Let them mess up.
That totally reframes the entire sequence from a simple scoreboard update into an actual strategic directive.
It really does.
And once that serve is successfully in play, we hit this geographic race triggered by the two-bounce rule.
Yes, the infamous two-bounce rule.
So the ball has to bounce once on the return and once on the serving team side before anyone is legally allowed to take it out of the air.
Right.
I always love comparing this to a very formal, polite conversation. Like, everyone has to let the other person speak, meaning the ball bounces before anyone is allowed to interrupt with a volley.
I love that. But that polite conversation is secretly a trap.
Oh, how so?
Because while the ball is bouncing, there is a high-stakes real estate grab happening. The serving team is trapped at the baseline waiting for that second bounce, but the returner's partner, they're already entrenched up at the kitchen line.
They're already in position.
Right. And the team that commands the kitchen line first dictates the angles of the entire point.
Which is exactly why getting caught in that transition zone, the dreaded no man's land between the baseline and the kitchen, is so punishing.
Oh, it's brutal.
Because the physics of that plastic ball, especially with its aerodynamic drag, it means it dips rapidly.
Yep.
If you are just loitering in no man's land, your opponent doesn't even have to hit a hard shot. They just hit a ball that naturally dips below your knees.
And then you're stuck.
Yet you're left trying to scoop a ball off your shoelaces while retreating, which, almost always results in a defensive pop-up.
Exactly. So avoiding that trap entirely dictates how you should handle the return of serve. If you hit a gentle, floaty return, that's a massive strategic error.
Because it just lets them walk right up.
Exactly. It allows the serving team to easily step in and take control. You want to hit your return deep and heavy. A deep return pins the serving team against the back fence, and that maximizes the distance they have to travel to reach the net.
Right. And the absolute microsecond your paddle strikes that return, you should be sprinting forward to join your partner at the kitchen line.
Sprinting. Full out.
But wait, this is where the strategy seems to conflict with reality for a lot of people.
How do you mean?
Well, if I hit a return and immediately sprint full speed toward the net, I am a massive moving target. If my opponent hits a laser right at my chest while I'm mid-stride, how am I supposed to hit a controlled shot?
Well, the secret is you never hit the ball while you're sprinting.
Never.
Never. This is where we get into elite court movement, specifically the biomechanics of the split step.
The split step.
Yeah, the split step is essentially hitting the pause button on your forward momentum. So you sprint, yes, but a fraction of a second before your opponent makes contact with the ball, you stop your feet completely. You drop your center of gravity into a wide, athletic stance, knees bent, resting lightly on the balls of your feet, and you square your shoulders directly to the ball.
So you are basically anchoring yourself to become a multi-directional spring.
Exactly.
But how do you know exactly when to initiate that split step? If it's fractions of a second, how do you time it?
You let the opponent's paddle dictate your timing. You need to intensely focus on the tip of their paddle right before they swing.
The tip of the paddle.
Yeah. If their paddle tip is pointing down toward the ground, the physics of the swing dictate they must hit an upward looping shot.
Right, they have to get under it.
Exactly. And that upward trajectory gives you time to take another step or two forward. But if their paddle tip is high, they're loaded up to drive the ball hard and low.
I see.
And that is your visual cue to instantly split step, hold your ground, and prepare to defend.
Wow, that visual read is a total game changer. I never thought to look just at the tip of the paddle.
It really slows the game down for you.
So once you're firmly planted up at the kitchen line alongside your partner, court coverage becomes the next major hurdle, right?
Right.
Because the instinct for most players is to hug their respective sidelines.
Well, yeah, out of fear.
Right. They are terrified of clashing paddles in the middle, but that just leaves a massive gaping hole right down the center of the court.
And hugging the sidelines is a mathematically flawed strategy. I mean, the geometry of the court tells us that the vast majority of point-ending shots don't go out wide.
They don't.
No, they thread the needle right down the middle, slipping precisely between two partners who are both silently praying the other person hits it.
Yes. The classic "I thought you had it" moment.
Exactly. So the standard high-level protocol is that the player with the dominant forehand positioned in the middle should almost always command those center shots.
Right, so if you have two right-handers, the player on the left side of the court takes the middle.
Yep, it just completely eliminates the hesitation.
Speaking of eliminating hesitation, once you have your positioning down, you are immediately faced with the classic dilemma of the third shot. Power versus finesse.
The great debate.
Because beginners see a ball coming and they just want to smash it into orbit. But advanced play relies heavily on dialing back that adrenaline.
What's fascinating here is how the mechanics of the third shot completely expose this dilemma. The serving team, who are pinned at the baseline, they basically have two primary tools to get to the net, the drive and the drop.
Right.
And the third shot drop is the absolute gold standard of high-level play. It's this high-arcing, remarkably soft shot that is specifically engineered to land gently inside the opponent's kitchen.
I've always loved the acronym for what that drop shot achieves. It buys you LOFT, lots of frickin' time.
Yes. Perfect acronym.
Because you've intentionally hit the ball with a slow, high looping trajectory, you buy yourself the precious seconds needed to calmly transition from the baseline to the kitchen line without being rushed.
And it neutralizes the opponent's geographical advantage completely. But, the finesse of the drop isn't your only option. The third shot drive has a very specific tactical purpose, too.
When do you use the drive?
You unleash the drive when you notice the opponent's return is unusually short, or if their split-step timing is off and they are caught moving.
Oh, catch him off guard.
Exactly. However, the fatal mistake players make is trying to hit that drive at 100% power.
Because if you swing out of your shoes, the ball just sails long.
It's gone.
You're not trying to blow a hole through the fence.
Yeah.
The optimal third shot drive is hit at maybe 50 to 60% power.
Right, just a controlled pace.
Because that control pace ensures the ball stays low and dips aggressively right at their feet, which forces a weak volley.
Yep.
But what happens when the roles are reversed? I mean, we all encounter those players, the bangers, who just insist on hitting maximum velocity drives every single time they touch the ball.
Oh, bangers thrive on intimidating their opponents. They want you to make chaotic, reactive swings.
Yeah, they want you to panic.
Right. But neutralizing a banger relies on really simple kinetic energy principles. When they hit a massive power shot at you, the absolute worst response is to take a big swing back.
You just add more chaos.
Exactly. The energy required to get the ball over the net is already built into their shot. All you have to do is stop swinging.
Just freeze.
Just hold your paddle out firmly in front of you and simply block it. The ball will absorb the impact, ricochet off your paddle face, and drop softly into their kitchen. You're turning their own momentum into a liability.
You are basically practicing court martial arts, just using their energy against them.
Exactly.
And since we are heavily analyzing power and finesse at the net, I think we have to address the most agonizing, unforced error in the entire sport.
No, I know where this is going.
Everyone listening knows this exact pain. An opponent hits a drop shot. It's a bit too high, but it's still relatively low inside the kitchen.
Yep.
And your eyes light up, you reach in, and you aggressively whip the paddle downward to just smash the ball into oblivion.
Yeah,
And the ball violently rockets straight into the net.
every single time. It is the most common mechanical error at the kitchen line, and it comes down entirely to the downward arc of your swing.
Right.
When you attempt an overhead smash motion on a ball that is hovering out in front of you and it's slightly below your chest, the face of your paddle is inevitably pointing downward at the exact moment of contact.
You're aiming at the ground, basically.
Yeah, you are mathematically calculating a trajectory that goes directly into the tape of the net.
So how do we fix it? We definitely need to offer simple tips for avoiding common errors like hitting into the net, and this seems like the biggest offender by far.
Well, the fix is surprisingly simple, but it requires suppressing your ego.
Which is the hard part.
Exactly. When a ball is hovering low in the kitchen like that, you must sacrifice explosive power for surgical accuracy. Instead of snapping your list downward in a smashing motion, you utilize a flat push.
A flat push.
Right. You keep the paddle face completely vertical and literally just push the paddle forward, parallel to the ground in the exact direction you want the ball to travel.
So it's not going to be a highlight reel winner that bounces over the fence.
No, definitely not.
But it completely removes the net from the equation. It keeps the ball extremely low, pushes your opponent deep, and most importantly, it actually keeps you in the point.
Yes, keeping the ball in play is everything.
And executing that flat push happens in the most stressful environment on the entire court, which is the non-volley zone, the kitchen.
Yeah, the stress zone.
Stepping into this zone while hitting a volley is a foot fault, which results in immediate point loss. And it isn't just about knowing where the line is. It's really about biomechanical discipline.
Right, and that discipline starts with creating a buffer. If you stand with your toes literally brushing the painted line, you are inviting a fault.
Because you're going to move.
Exactly. When you reach forward to dig out a volley, your hips and shoulders naturally rotate. That slight anatomical rotation will cause your planted foot to slide forward an inch or two.
And then you're over the line.
Yep, it drags you illegally right into the zone. So establishing a strict 3 to 4 inch buffer behind the line absorbs that natural rotation.
That makes so much sense.
Okay.
I've also found that gravity is my biggest enemy when reaching into the kitchen.
How do you mean?
Well, when I stretch forward to hit a low volley, my body weight violently pulls me over the line. But there's this brilliant hack for this involving your non-dominant hand.
Oh, the counterbalance.
Yes, when you reach forward with your paddle hand, you forcefully throw your empty hand straight backward behind you.
Right.
It operates exactly like a tightrope walker utilizing a balancing pole.
Yeah.
It instantly shifts your center of gravity backward and anchors your feet securely behind the line.
That counterbalance technique is absolutely essential for maintaining your equilibrium. Now, while volleys are illegal in the kitchen, you know you are perfectly permitted to step in to hit a ball that has already bounced.
Right, once it bounces, you can go in.
But even then, you must manage your spatial awareness using the 1 foot rule.
The 1 foot rule.
Yes. When you step in to return a bounced dink, only bring 1 foot across the line. Keep your other foot firmly planted back in the legal zone.
The psychology behind that is fascinating to me. If you step fully into the kitchen with both feet, your brain just loses its spatial anchor.
It does. You forget where you are.
You completely forget where the safe zone is. But if you leave 1 foot planted behind the line, your body's proprioception, your physical awareness of where you are in space takes over.
Right.
The moment you strike the ball, the natural elasticity of your stance automatically retracts you back to that planted foot.
It acts as an automatic physical tether.
Yeah.
And staying safely tethered behind the line is crucial because, let's face it, you will inevitably find yourself locked in a dinking battle. Oh, the endless dinking battles.
Right. These are those soft, rhythmic, cross-court exchanges that just seem to go on forever. And the danger is that players get mesmerized by the rhythm.
It's a hypnotic trance.
It really is. And they end up in a 50-shot dink rally against an opponent who has vastly superior soft game skills.
Yeah, you just keep feeding the ball back to the exact same spot until you eventually make a mistake, pop it up, and get punished for it.
Exactly.
So the tactical circuit breaker here is the rule of 3.
Yes, the rule of 3.
If you find yourself locked in a cross-court dink exchange, you count your shots. After the 3rd cross-court dink, you actively break the pattern by hitting a bailout dink.
Right.
This is a soft, straight-ahead shot aimed at the other opponent, the one standing directly across from you. It instantly alters the geometry of the point, breaks the superior dinker's rhythm, and forces everyone to completely reset their footwork.
So what does this all mean?
It means that winning at the kitchen line is an exercise in intense intentionality. I mean, you aren't just reacting to the ball. You are actively managing your momentum, manipulating the geometry of the angles, and possessing the spatial awareness to know exactly where your feet are at all times.
It's a lot to process.
It is. But executing that level of intense discipline requires a vehicle capable of handling the stress, which brings us to the physical toll of the sport.
And this is such a vital conversation because pickleball has this huge reputation for being incredibly gentle and accessible.
Right. Everyone thinks it's so easy on the joints.
Yet sports medicine clinics are currently overflowing with pickleball players. The sheer volume of injuries, severe shoulder strains, torn meniscus in the knee, hip flexor issues, ankle sprains, and a massive epidemic of elbow tendonitis, it's staggering.
It really is. And honestly, the illusion of the small court is what causes most of the damage. Players assume that less ground to cover means less exertion.
Which is a trap.
A huge trap. In reality, that confined space necessitates violent, explosive lateral movements, immediate hard stops, and extreme unbalanced lunges. And when players skip an active, dynamic warm-up, they are subjecting cold, rigid muscles and ligaments to immense shear forces.
Absolutely. And a huge component of injury prevention is ego management, specifically staying in your lane.
Oh, this is so important.
If you are an intermediate player, Jumping onto a court with highly advanced, hyper-aggressive opponents is a recipe for disaster.
Hmm.
The sheer velocity of their shots and the heavy, unpredictable spin will force your body to contort into incredibly awkward, unnatural positions just to make contact.
Yep.
And that sudden, uncontrolled twisting is exactly when a ligament gives way.
And defensive posture also plays a massive role in joint safety. Let's revisit the dreaded pop-up for a second.
Oh boy.
Right. A player accidentally hits a ball high into the air, effectively serving up an easy smash for the opponent. The most dangerous reaction there is to freeze, drop your paddle, and stand completely upright waiting for the execution.
Never give up on the pop-up. The second you realize you floated a ball too high, you have to execute a rapid shuffle step backward to buy yourself distance and time.
Back up immediately.
And more importantly, you must aggressively drop your center of gravity. Get down low, drop your paddle down to protect your feet and ankles, and stay engaged. It is actually shocking how many supposedly unreturnable overhead smashes you can easily block back over the net simply by getting low and absorbing the pace.
It's true. But you can't safely execute those rapid shuffle steps or deep lunges without the proper foundational gear. I mean, playing this sport in running shoes is a primary cause of ankle injuries.
Because they're built for running forward.
Exactly. Running shoes are engineered specifically for forward momentum. The soles are elevated and they completely lack any lateral stability.
You just roll right over.
Right. You need dedicated court shoes featuring a wide, flat base, rigid side-to-side support, and proper arch structure to literally lock your foot in place during those explosive lateral direction changes.
And working our way up the arm, we really have to talk about paddle weight. Because the weight of your paddle is the single biggest contributing factor to arm fatigue and elbow tendonitis.
Unquestionably.
If your forearm is screaming in pain after a match, your paddle is almost certainly too heavy for your specific musculature. You have to find a swing weight that complements your natural biomechanics.
Right. Don't just copy the pros.
Exactly. Whether that means dropping down to a featherlight 7-ounce paddle or finding a highly balanced mid-weight option.
It really requires an honest assessment of your physical capabilities. Prioritizing ergonomic harmony over purchasing whatever vibrant, wildly expensive paddle the pros are using on television.
Though it is definitely worth establishing the first commandment of pickleball right here.
Oh, let's hear it.
Thou shalt not blame thy mistakes on thy instrument.
Yes.
You cannot hit a wide-open dink 30 feet out of bounds and then angrily inspect your paddle face as if the graphite core suddenly mutated on you.
People love to stare at their paddles.
Right. Unless your paddle is quite literally constructed from a nightmarish amalgamation of bananas and tree bark, the unforced error was a result of poor footwork or bad timing, not the equipment.
Well, placing the blame on an inanimate object is just a universal human coping mechanism, I suppose.
Very true.
But as our analysis today has shown, true control of the game is born from an understanding of court mechanics, biomechanical positioning, and high-level decision-making.
And that reality leaves us with a final, slightly provocative thought to really chew on before you step back onto the court. When you peel back all the layers we discussed, pickleball is fundamentally a game of high-speed physical chess.
Absolutely.
We are conditioned to believe that the ultimate flex in sports is raw, explosive athleticism, like jumping 3 feet in the air to hit a terrifying, lightning-fast drive.
Right.
But in this game, the real flex is something entirely different. The ultimate flex is possessing such flawless geographical positioning and such profound strategic anticipation of the angles that you barely have to move a single inch.
It's beautiful to watch.
You just stand perfectly balanced at the kitchen line, while your opponent on the other side of the net is forced to run an absolute agonizing marathon just to keep the ball in play. Thank you so much for tuning in to Pickleball Partner of the Podcast. We look forward to the next deep dive